Lenovel. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, hey, everybody. Glad to see that everybody's awake and going today on this Friday. It is Real Estate Talk TGIF. I'm Dave Finale, and we have Jess Lenovel on with us today, who is really an amazing individual with her story and everything else. But this again is Real Estate Talk TGIF episode 78. We've been on 77 weeks in a row, and everybody knows, you all know what TGIF stands for, right? Well, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you it stands for Thank God It's Finale. That's right. Thank God It's Finale. It is Friday, which kind of works, along with it. But here I am. We're at episode 78. And Jess, thanks so much for coming on. I can't think enough. It's really cool. Let's have a great conversation. And tell me, just to start right off the bat, tell me about you. Tell me about Jess.
Wow, that's a heavy loaded question.
Sure is.
So I can tell you a little bit about kind of my background, things like that. So I'm Canadian, grew up in Toronto. My mom actually got her real estate license, I think, when I was in kindergarten. So she's been a realtor for about 35 years now. She's also my best friend. Love my mom more than anything. So of course, even though I fought it my whole life, I ended up in real estate too. So I got my license when I was about 21. I came out of the University of Toronto having studied African and Caribbean studies. So let's be honest, what was I going to do with that?
I'll teach it. That's about it, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I came out thinking I'm going to work for the UN. I'm going to move to the Sudan. I'm going to save the world.
Okay.
And my mom basically said, do you have a plan? And I said, no. And she was like, okay, you're going to get your real estate license and you're going to do something. We're at least going to get you started in something. I got my license. I loved it. And, here we are. I sold real estate myself for about 14 years. And then I started my company now, which is the Listings Lab. And now what we do now is actually just help agents scale their businesses. So that's kind of like the cliff notes, but I mean, obviously there's more to it. But
so talk to me about certain you mentioned, I think in one of the stories you mentioned something about how your mom would talk about how deals were going at the dinner table when you were younger. How did that work out for everybody?
Well, it's funny because, we all think that we're not going to turn into our parents, right?
Right.
Exactly. So, right. I have a little brother who is and we fought it. We both fought it, but I ended up in real estate like my mom, and he ended up in the sciences, and his background is neuropharmacology. My dad's a doctor. Right. So we both just sort of split off and kind of became our parents, but sitting at the dinner table, we would all sit around and mom would talk about deals that she was doing, things that were happening, in a particular deal. I started, helping with her paperwork and doing things like that when I was 13. But I have such amazing memories, and I think back on times and the way that real estate has changed too.
Right.
I have these memories of being dragged around showings as a little kid and playing with my mom's Pearlie's map book in the back seat because there was no GPS. There was no Google Maps.
No, there wasn't.
No, it was Jess. Can you find where this is in the map book?
It's funny. When I first got into the business, which was, eons ago, it was, first thing they told you to get was a map, right? Yeah. Get one of the Hagstrom maps. I don't know if that's the name, right? Hagstrom map. And then when I first purchased my business in '96 and got into my own brokerage, it was, you guys got to have a map. You got to have this. You got to have that. But it's amazing when you think about that stuff going back, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when I got my license, how excited I was that I was getting a pager. I felt so special and so official that I was getting a pager. And now nobody even knows how to use a pager anymore.
Right. Well, those were the old days. I mean, you had to work in code, right? So if somebody really needed to talk to you, they'd put a 911 after their number.
100%.
My admin, I'd say, look, if you don't need to talk to me, you just need to talk about something, do a 411, right? Information, right? So it was like those kind of things. Those are the old days. So we fast forward into your business, and you hit it off right away. You were doing really well right away. Is that right?
I was. I mean, I was lucky because I don't feel like I started where most new agents start, because I had a lifetime of learning the business and kind of, and so a lot of the time you hear people, they get their license for the first time and they're like, okay, they taught me how to not go to jail, but they didn't actually teach me how to actually run a business.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Whereas, I'd grown up with someone who was running a business, had a really great referral base, had niched down really well. So I watched her and I learned and kind of emulated what she was doing to a certain extent.
Right.
But when I got my license, this is going to date me. When I got my license, there was this brand new thing that had just come out called Facebook.
Really?
Oh yeah. So
how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, it worked out. I was dabbling, and so everybody said, you got to door knock, you got to cold call, you got to do all these things. I am the textbook introvert. I love myself a good blanket and a good book and a bath, right? So for me, like, that was really uncomfortable, and I knew that I wasn't building my business that way.
Right.
So what did I do is I got creative online so that I could prospect. I could prospect. I call it prospecting from your PJs, right? So like I could sit at home and I could hide behind the screen and I could prospect. And that's really how I built my business, was messaging people and having conversations with people on Facebook through the Facebook classifieds and things like that. So that's how I originally built my business, which suited me really well. Right. And then it kind of grew and it kind of blossomed from there, which was perfect for me. Right. But there was always those kind of hiccups along the way. I didn't end up working with my mom. I built some teams that didn't work out. I made all the mistakes, right, along the way, just as everybody does. And you had brought up earlier, like before we got on the show, that there's an entrepreneur.com article that like a profile that had been written about me, and it kind of goes through like the more personal side of my story. And really what that was I was in a really abusive relationship, a domestically abusive relationship for several years. Right. And I lost myself. I lost a lot of like my business through that. Right. Just because what ended up happening was I was afraid to kind of put myself out there, and I was afraid to like be out late. And I was afraid to build my business. And really, at the end of the day, like, he really didn't want me to be more successful than he was.
Yeah, I can see how that can be an issue with a lot of men, actually, really, And
it became really difficult. And so, it took me a long time. I did eventually, build up the courage and find myself in that relationship, and I got out. When I got out, that's when my business really started coming back together. And I made the decision, and I kind of found the strength in me to say, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this well. And I'm not just going to be the average agent anymore. I'm going to build something. I'm going to really build something now. I'm going to prove to myself and prove to everyone else that like this didn't change me, and I can do more than I've ever done in the past. And so I did. I stopped looking at myself as a realtor. I started looking at myself as a marketer. And I really began to market, more heavily. And that's when my business kind of exploded. Through all of this, I met my husband.
So you started marketing heavily, but you didn't do the outward stuff, to use that word out, use more of the inward stuff, which I want to go into one of the quotes in the article. Yeah. Many realtors rely on the 1970s marketing techniques. I know you said door knocking and stuff earlier, but I want to make this point again, which is really important, because one of the things in my coaching programs, I absolutely do not promote door knocking or cold calling. I promote, if you're going to do something like that, you've got a warm knowledge of what's going on. So talk to me about, because I talk about it as the 1990s, but you really kicked it in with words in the 70s. I think that's awesome because it's so parallel to what I do. So give me a little bit of that and go forward.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a really big believer that, the real estate industry and all of the knowledge and the way that we're taught, even still, like big brokerages, like the way that we're taught to build our business has completely ignored all of the changes in the world, the changes, the way that people communicate, and the way that we not only get information, but also build relationships with people.
Right.
Right. And so I'm a big believer that like we're still being taught to build our businesses like, you know, like the guy who sold vacuums door to door. Right.
I have a funny story about that, but go ahead.
And really, at the end of the day, like that, like it's not only is it unnecessary, but it makes this whole industry look just so archaic. You know, well, the way that things are moving, the way that people communicate, the speed at which people do things, the real estate industry for the most part has been kind of left behind. So what do we do in order to not only save this industry? Because if you think about it, like we have as an industry, we have left holes in the way that we do things and allowed other tech disruptors and things like that, iBuyers, all of these other people to come in and poke holes in this industry because we haven't evolved.
Right.
Right.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the way I see it too.
Yeah. And really, because of that, what's ended up happening is we've put the industry as a whole at risk because we're not evolving. And so you know, that's something that I'm super passionate about in terms of like getting agents to see the future of this business and not only looking at the past for the answers anymore. Because the past has the answers from the past. Right? If someone new or someone who's wanting to grow something significant now doesn't look at what's happening and what's moving forward and how marketing, the industry, technology, communication, psychology is changing,
right,
we're in trouble.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that with the way we've been left behind, we've allowed ourselves to be left behind, first of all, in my opinion, but we've allowed technology to come in. And what it's done I think it's made a lot of agents, what I like to call order takers. Like when everything happened in 03, 04, as it built up, anybody got a license. Everybody got licenses because they could just pick up the phone, take somebody to go look at a house, write a contract, done, get paid, right? And it didn't matter if anybody had any money, didn't really care, right? But they didn't do any selling. They didn't do any rapport building. They had nothing to do with relationships. It was completely and totally transactional and what I like to call order takers. Now, also in restaurants, if you look at restaurants and stuff, just use that as a parallel. They used to be called waiters and waitresses. Now they're called servers. Where they're just serving. That's what we did. We are now servers and we're just taking orders. Somebody else is going to bring your food. We're not building the relationships that we need to build, right? And you're right. It's always been that door-to-door salesman type connotation that we've always had, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that the real reality or the baseline, this is one of the oldest businesses in history, right?
Right.
This is a human to human business. And because of that transactional property that has been brought into this industry, we've opened the door for like all the tech companies, right? Like the iBuyers, they're coming in and they're filling this hole because we've allowed this industry to become so transactional. We've treated people like leads.
Exactly.
And started treating them like people. And then what ends up happening is there's always going to be a piece of technology that can do it faster and better.
So with that said, let's go into the listing lab. Yeah. Let's talk about that. We're talking about, and you basically say it's the ROI, right? And we're not talking about return on investment. Talking about the ROI and where that came from and how it stemmed from everything we've been talking about.
Yeah. So the idea behind ROI, and when somebody says to me, like, you know, what do you help agents do? There's kind of two answers to that question. One of them is I help 6-figure agents scale to 7 figures.
Right.
The deeper answer to that is I actually help agents build relationships at scale. Right. So that's really like what the baseline of everything is it's not I'm generating leads. We're not just like collecting information and like throwing phone numbers at people. This is very much about using psychology and building those proper relationships at scale. So if I'm going to break down the R, the O, and the I, do you mind if I do that just really quickly?
No, please do. Please do, because I have them all circled and stuff from all my notes. So go ahead.
So if I'm going to define relevancy, for instance, relevancy is the marketing message, right? What you're saying to the leads to attract them into your world, and then convince them of really really what's going on in their lives, a deeper understanding of what they're going through and how you can help them solve that. And this just goes back to like really basic sales, right? And I think that in real estate, we forget what that is. People don't move because it's fun. Moving is awful.
Right.
So why do people move? It's because their current situation does not match their desired situation. There's something wrong in their current life that they believe, or there's something that they're not happy with that they believe can be fixed or can be improved by a different living situation. So that's why people move, right? And so we have to deeply understand what that current situation and the desired situation is.
Right.
So then from an omnipresence standpoint, it's basically if I'm going to be like a little bit more technical, it's basically like the strategic distribution of that marketing message. Right? So we use retargeting techniques, different techniques online to show a variety of the best content that you have that is going to facilitate that psychological journey from stranger to client through advertising, so that they see you consistently kind of everywhere on a daily basis. So the idea behind the omnipresence is that your leads are going to feel like they see you everywhere. And so the way that we teach omnipresence is it's the idea of going deeper rather than wider. Right. So
explain that phrase, because I hear that phrase an awful lot, and so does everybody else. And a lot of people are using it have no clue what the hell it means.
Okay. So this is the idea. It's focusing on a smaller group of highly relevant leads rather than going broad and trying to appeal to everyone. When you do this, you see a higher quality of leads who convert, and they convert at a higher rate. And they're for the most part, they're usually better, like they're better clients, because what's happening is you're building that know, like, and trust factor, right? It's the idea of, instead of throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, you're actually intentionally moving a person or moving a human being through that psychological journey, so that when they are ready, not only are you top of mind, but they also feel connected to you, and they feel it's kind of twofold, right? They see you as the authority and the expert, but they also feel like they want to spend time with you, and they feel this emotional connection.
It's kind of like a level of awareness. Your level of awareness is increasing and improving.
Absolutely.
As you move along.
Yeah.
So during the omnipresent stage or part of this, is that you're actually what you say you're appearing at the right time.
Yeah.
But basically, would you think that has a lot to do with, okay, so now they're used to like the reticular activator system, right? You know what I mean by that? Joe got that from Joe Stumpf years ago, right? So and then you're increasing the frequency, or it appears that the frequency is there more. Because
and it's just like, I use a car analogy a lot, right? So if you think, okay, I might buy, I'm thinking about buying this certain type of car, then all of a sudden when you're driving down the road, you see so many more of those cars.
Yes.
It's in your frequency. You're thinking it's in your awareness field already. And so all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, these cars are everywhere. It works exactly the same thing with marketing.
Exactly. And also, I mean, just there's one of the things that I actually learned from Joe Stumpf years and years ago, 20 years ago or more, is that, you know, the seller is going to feel the same way about it all, whether it's selling a house, buying a house, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's you're going to see it a lot more once it's in your head once.
Yeah.
Right. And so, all right. So I want to hit one other thing when it comes, you say you become omnipresent with the right platform. What do you mean by that?
So what we mean by the right platform is, a lot of the time what people do is they just kind of choose a platform and then they just pick that platform. What we do, and what I think is the most important thing, is figuring out where that niche, where that ideal client lives online.
Yep.
Right? Like, where do they spend time? If you're going after downsizers or seniors, is Instagram the right platform for you? No. Those people don't spend time there, right? So it's about putting this relevant content, putting this correct marketing messaging in front of them in the right places, in the places where they live, in the places where they spend time.
it's got a lot to do also what your target is. I mean, it could be like you just said, seniors or empty nesters, whatever you want to call them, right? That could be your niche. That could be the market you're attacking. And maybe once you get one really going well, you go after more, right? But it's also knowing who you want to work with as well, which is going to depend where you are. Now, you want to hang out. If you hang out on Instagram and you know a lot of things going on Instagram, that's the place, right? Right.
Well, when we're talking retargeting too, or we're talking omnipresence, we can put ourselves in front of people wherever they go. If they're playing a game, if they're reading a news article, if they're on Instagram, if they're on Facebook, whatever that looks like, we can make sure that we're showing up at that correct frequency, no matter where they're going.
So let me ask you a question. You're posting on different pages and groups. You're posting on different social media channels.
Yeah.
And now you just mentioned the magic word, retargeting.
Yeah.
Right? Are you using anything special except for maybe the Facebook pixel? What are you using for that, and how are you doing that?
So I think that people should be installing the Facebook and the Google Pixel, depending on the demographic that they're going after as well.
Right.
It always depends. Like if you're going after upsizers or first time buyers, you don't actually need the Google Pixel for the most part because of the demographic. Right. But we should be using both. And then from there, so in terms of the retargeting, there's a lot of different things that you can play around with retargeting. You can play around with the placements. You can play around with, even something as simple as choosing that this person is going to be connected to Wi-Fi. Something that simple can make a massive difference to your conversions and to the attention that you're generating when somebody is actually seeing your content. Because, a lot of the time what happens is we'll accidentally open an app, or we'll flip through an app while we're at in line at the grocery store. That's not when you actually necessarily where you want your content to be consumed. You want that content to be consumed when someone is actually sitting and quiet and actually sitting and looking at their phone or looking at their iPad or whatever. And if it's also something that we're always going to want to test, but it could be as simple as just, I only want to put my placements when someone's connected to Wi-Fi, and that could make a really big difference. So there's always testing and things like that in the background, but the most important part of retargeting is the relevancy of the content and taking someone through the psychological journey from stranger to client. It's the psychology behind the content that is by far the most important part. There's a lot of people in real estate just throwing kind of random junk or random content in front of people and using high frequencies, and that isn't enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just put so much right there in that last couple of sentences, the relevancy of the content, because if you're putting stuff out there, everybody needs to understand, if you're putting stuff out there that's junk or that is not what people are looking for or what they want, you're irrelevant. Yeah. And that means the next time you're up, they're not going to pay any attention to you whatsoever. So you've just hurt yourself, right? So when we talk about relevancy of content, we talk about most important. Now, let's get into the I. Let's get into the last one, which you were going to, the intimacy.
Okay. So intimacy is basically the human element of the marketing, right? It's about showing up for your audience, being transparent and authentic in the content, and spending time to build that relationship with your audience. This is all about connecting with your audience on a human level, and then creating a community around your brand, right? So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but this is the whole idea behind the I part is what has been missing from the real estate world. So I find that people either do one or the other, right? They either treat people like leads and like they're disposable, or they only activate the intimacy and it's 100% repeat and referral.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's where if you want to put it into money terms, that's where really all the basic and the big money is going to be made, where you're actually going to be able to scale. Yeah. I want to bring something else into that you said earlier, which is so spot on and so on point is people worry about what they're spending sometimes when they're doing ads and they're doing retargeting, right? But the point is that if you really know who you want to talk to, it's going to cost you more. but it's going to convert on a much better level, like you said before, right? And a lot of people want to throw out and be cheap. And I hear this all the time from agents about, social media marketing, social media, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Well, you know what? If you're marketing to 1 million people and you're spending $3 a day, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get what you should be getting. But if you niche it down, as you say, right, bring it down and go deep rather than wide, because that's what going wide is, what I just said a minute ago.
Yeah.
If you're going deep, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. So when we're talking about all this marketing, the relevance, the omnipresence, the intimacy, a lot of people talk about different types of marketing. They call it push or pull marketing. Which do you call this?
I think so. So this is attraction marketing at the end of the day.
Marketing,
right? It's attraction marketing. The idea is that we're bringing people in as opposed to chasing. But there's more. It's really more to it than that, right? Like if you think about who you follow online, right? It might not even be someone in the real estate. Hopefully, it's not someone in the real estate industry, because a lot of the people in real estate industry aren't doing this well at all. But there might be this influencer somewhere on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever that you kind of feel like
right.
You saw them on the street. You might be that creepy person that walks up to them and forgets that you're not actually friends.
Right.
Right. And so you want to be seen as like that local celebrity, but you don't want to be that local celebrity that's put on a pedestal. You want to be that approachable local celebrity. Right? Because if you're on that pedestal, then people aren't going to feel like they can come to you and that they can actually work with you like you, right? It's going to feel like you're like, if I saw Brad Pitt walking down the street, would I walk up and give him a high five? Probably not, because there's not an approachability with that. But if I saw, I don't know, Oprah, maybe not Oprah, but so a celebrity that like you kind of feel like is just kind of like the girl next door, like an approachable person, that would I feel comfortable to be like, hey, like, how are you? Yeah, probably.
It's like Gary Vee says, be the mayor of your town, right? And I do an awful lot of video, and I try to get a lot of content out there, good, relevant content, and go live with a purpose, as my friend Trish Lito says. And the thing is that I told people, there was recently a local convention, a statewide convention, 3 states actually. And I told people, I says, because of what I do, there will probably be at least 5 people that come up to me during this like 24-hour period that I'm there that will come and introduce themselves to me. I was wrong. It was 8, right?
Okay.
And that was really pretty cool. And the other night there was an event, a gala event where there were like 800 people. And it was, people come and say hello nonstop. And half of them I knew really well, half of them I didn't. Yeah. Right? But that's part of what we do to get known. There's a great book called Known, which is really cool. And I look at what things you got to think about before you put your system into action. And I suggest everyone go and get this document that's available for download from you that talks all about your situation. And what I want to do now is I'm going to bring up MML, the man, the myth, the legend, my associate. Here he is, coming up right now. Sekou Pal. Sekou is the director of growth at the Devote Group in New Jersey, and Sekou is also a coach. We collaborate, and we came up with MML this morning. I don't know how, but
the man, the myth, the legend. That MML, it just made me laugh immediately.
I know. I saw that. So anyway, Jess meets Sekou. Sekou, I know you've been doing research on this young lady.
The research was like a refresher course. Like, just understand that, I read so many articles about you, and I am not worthy. We are just bowing. I was talking to my marketing director, and he was like, "You guys are doing. You guys got Jess Lenovel on? Oh my god! Like it's her. Then like Kyle Whistle, and like that's where I get all my info from, and this and that, and so you are beloved amongst the tech nerds in my life, including myself, by the way, as I wear my Star Wars shirt.
You hear stuff like that, and that's what we want, right, from a marketing perspective. But you know, I'm just me. I'm just little old me. And it's so funny to hear things like that because that's that's marketing at work.
Right.
That's it. That's it.
It sure is. It sure is because you're in our world, you're omnipresent, right? So
yeah.
and
at the end of the day, like I'm just some girl who like I'm at home. I've got my door closed so my cats don't come in and bother me. Like it's you know, we're at the end of the day, we're all just people, just you know, trying to make it work.
Trying to make it work. We're in here. If it's a little extra noisy, I apologize. We're in here packing up. We're moving to a new office. We had to hit a temporary office for a little while. So let me just say this. I look at a lot of programs. I look at a lot of systems, and most people, I think, and you know, no disrespect, but most people, I think, overthink their program, overthink their system, add way too much importance to the word "I." And in reading your program, man, it is respectfully simple. It's for a guy like me.
Yeah.
Who's like, what is this thing? How do I use this?
Yeah.
You know, the language is simple. The ideas and concepts are incredibly powerful, effective, and simple. How long did it take? I hope you don't mind, Dave. I'm jumping right in.
Hit it, brother.
How long did it take you to say, yeah, you know what? This is it. This is what I want to put out to the world.
Not long. And to be honest, like, you know, I think that there's my friend Rachel just interviewed Jay Abraham on her podcast, right? Like, well, that's legit, right? But she has been talking this past little while about some of the things that she learned from speaking to him. And he talks about the fact that people get so caught up in the tactics that they try to implement tactics without understanding the overall strategy first. Right. And so and that's something that, you know, I didn't even put into words until I heard that. But it's true, right? You have to have the overall strategy and the overall idea of where you're going so that you're able to put the tactics in place. And that's really kind of from a framework idea. What's really important to me is let's get the whole idea and the framework and have people understand what they're doing and why they're doing it before we tell someone to run a Facebook ad.
Wow.
Because really, like at the end of the day, if you don't understand the overall concepts, then you can't make decisions in terms of like how you're going to move forward and if something fits in or not, right? It's the same idea of like building a business and having like a mission, vision, and core values, right? You make decisions or you hire and fire based on those core values. It's the same idea with the marketing as well, right? There's all kinds of marketing out there. There's tons of scarcity marketing. Right. There's very manipulative marketing out there. You know, you can go around and tell everybody that you're going to buy their house, but let's be honest, you're probably not going to, right?
Well,
so,
yeah, and you talk about, we were talking before about going deep and everything, and how can you even go deep if you don't understand the entire process, the entire program, like you were just saying, right? And it's like, you know, the problem with the connection and everything and how to create the perfect connection. I got to say this because this is just really cool. And it, you know, kind of where I come from. And you say in your article, how to create the perfect connection without being douchey or becoming annoying. I mean, that's how we think, right? Because you try to make a connection, but nobody knows who you are.
Right.
And that's by not knowing and understanding what the process is all about. Would you agree with that?
100%. And I think it's also about understanding the demographic and the target market very deeply, right? Pains, problems, fears, desires, right? And a lot of the time, especially in real estate, people will create marketing messaging in a vacuum. They believe that they know better than everyone else. And so their marketing doesn't land because what's happening is they're creating messaging from from a place of ego,
right?
And they're creating messaging from like I know better and the very first thing that we make everybody do in our programs is interview. Go out into your market and do the market research and get the messaging vetted. Because if the messaging's not correct, we can give you all the tactics and all the strategy in the world and it won't work.
So I translate that into I am a prospecting agent. I'd say 90 to 95% of any success that I might have in my universe is based on picking up the phone and calling.
Okay.
Right? Getting rejections, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I must get, I don't know, 5 to 40 emails a day telling me you never have to worry about cold calling again. Right?
Yeah.
Where they like say my name in the email. So they spent the money for whatever list I was on.
Yeah.
And spent the money for whatever CRM so that they could put my name into the email so that it would look genuine, like they were talking to me directly.
Yeah.
Never even researched the person that they were talking to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I'm just dumping emails. I don't even look at them 9 out of 10 times. You know? I am an admirer of doers. I'm an admirer of those who make a decision like yourself. Like I was reading in one of the articles where you've taken some pretty big risk. You've pivoted a few times. You know, now I'm not going to ask the normal question. I hope you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
What kind of support system do you have when you take risks like that and you pivot and you lay it on the line? Like, what does that look like in your life?
So I would say the best thing that I have in my life is my husband, is my marriage.
Yeah. Okay.
Literally every single time I've made a pivot. So the last big pivot that we made, I call my husband from Bali. He's in Toronto. I'm in Bali. And I say, I'm done. And he was like, excuse me? And I was like, I'm done. This is what we're going to do. And this is what I want to do. And you know what he said? Great. Come home. Let's figure it out. And that's why I've been able to take the risks, make the decisions. You know, I say to people all the time, like, don't put me on this pedestal of I'm so brave, because I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I have him, and I have the support that I need in order to know that, you know, if I end up in a cardboard box on the street, I'm not alone.
We will be in a cardboard box on the street.
Exactly. My husband, myself, and our 2 cats, we will be in that cardboard box keeping each other warm. Right?
I don't know about the cats. I tell you right now, the cats are really loyal until the cardboard box. Then
cardboard box, then they're gone, right? but it's true, like that. Like for me, like a lot of people want to position me as this brave woman, and don't get me wrong. Like I've had crazy moments of bravery in my life, but the business pivots and the life pivots that I've made in the last 5-8 years haven't taken as much bravery as people think that they have, because of the support system that I have. Awesome. And not only my husband, like I'm incredibly close to my family, like my mom, my dad, my brother. I know that if I did if something went wrong, that they've got me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. We break things a lot here, and the pivot is probably one of the most difficult things that we have to do.
Yeah.
And so being a growth-minded individual, like David and I meet daily, just about, like we brain dump on each other daily. Yeah. And having that support is just gonna, you're right. It doesn't feel like you're being brave when you're surrounded by folks who's like, I've got you.
I got you.
I got you. That's an awesome idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just fantastic. I mean, just the different things that we're hitting on, because I mean, look, I think all 3 of us here have like mind as far as, the intimacy end of it, which is really, I mean, just an amazing end. And a lot of people have not really touched on that. We've talked about going deep. We've talked about, being everywhere, which I talk about as well. And we've talked about making the initial connection, but the intimacy factor is just, I think that's the big factor where, if you really work a list, you work the people, and when you start doing all this, you're actually increasing that number. Yeah. It can only scale your business. And you're talking about taking people from 6 figures to 7 figures. That's pretty huge, right?
Yep.
So go ahead.
Well, so, and the other thing from an intimacy standpoint too, to even take you that kind of step further, right. The way I define intimacy with your audience or even with anybody is vulnerability. And very few agents are truly vulnerable with what they put out into the world, right? So let's let's talk about reality. Let's not paint this picture of the perfect agent. Perfection's boring. People don't connect with perfection. People connect with the struggles, the flaws, and I talk about this sometimes too. Like I put a video out there a long time ago, and I sneezed in the middle of this marketing video, and I then started laughing afterwards. And the team says like, okay, we'll cut it out. And I was like, no, leave it, because that's like. I don't ever need to be seen as this like perfect entity, right? Like it's the human aspect of all of this that makes us feel connected and makes us feel not alone. And I think that there's a lot of, think about this, even like in the 70s, were the Super Bowl commercials making people cry? No, but they are now. And the reason that they are now is because marketers understand that that's what people are missing and that's what people are craving. And so it's that human connection. That's why, I mean, when I originally told my whole story to Entrepreneur, when they did that profile, I remember it was a story I had never told. The only people who knew that story of the abuse and how it kind of, it changed my life. My family knew, my husband knew, and my closest friends knew, and that's it.
Wow.
Right. And then all of a sudden I call my parents and I'm half Chinese. A lot of people don't realize that because of the blonde hair, but my dad is like Hong Kong Chinese. And I was worried that it was too much, too vulnerable, and it was going to make him uncomfortable. And I called him and I warned them and I was like, this is coming out and I'm telling this story. And I was so surprised at the response. It came out and the first thing he said to me was like, I'm just so proud of you. And, and I didn't even expect that from my own dad, let alone how many people have, like, I have fathers, brothers, like men, like a lot of men who are like, I've sent this article to my daughter. I sent this article to my cousin. I'm giving this article to my sister.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. I have two very, very powerful young ladies. One who's at Penn State, who is just brilliant. And she thinks very deeply. And when it comes down to women's issues and things that most people perceive that you have control over, but you really don't.
Yeah.
Right. That you can only control your reaction to it. And so when I saw that article, it was something I immediately passed on. My other daughter she taught herself Korean so she can listen to K-pop.
Oh my God.
Like passing her that article, I don't know what beast I unleashed with that, but you probably have a soldier for you right now.
That's the thing, right? Like I have always, if growing up, I was, was I the smartest kid in the class? No. But I was very solid in who I am. Mm-hmm. And if you had told me at 20 that in my later 20s I would be in that relationship, I would have thought you were crazy. But there I was. And it was a slow burn, and it happens slowly, and it broke me down. And at the end of the day, like it's something that I'm now, it's actually something I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
Really grateful that I went through it.
Yeah. You get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we practice gratitude in our group, right? So, theoretically, people always like start the day with gratitude and we practice gratitude in that way, right? So we do our gratitude texts in the morning and send out thank you notes and things like that. And when things are at its worst, the support in this room, it's really, really, really powerful. It's when we force gratitude in those wild situations that we really, really grow. So we learn from you. We learn from folks like you, and we are grateful for the sort of crap that we step in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I was when I did the session yesterday. I talked about, hey, you know what? 2019, I mean, people say, I can't wait till next year, the new decade, all this other stuff. And I look at it as like, you know what? I had lots of failures in 2019, but I'm so grateful for them. I learned so much. I'm so much more positive than I ever was. And, look at the collaboration.
Tell me about it.
You and me. And I'm able to talk to Jess and have a great conversation like we've known each other for years. And it's just, taking chances and you know what? Waiting for it. And it comes, it's really cool,
It comes.
It
comes. Oh, go ahead, David.
No, go ahead. No.
Jess, I'm a big mouth, so I'll just keep talking. And when I'm excited about the person that we're talking with, I'm gonna just keep going. We do this session every Wednesday where we do 2,000 contacts, a minimum of 2,000 contacts every Wednesday, and almost since the beginning, once we figured out that we can do 2,000 contacts in 3 hours, everyone's been talking about, hey, we need to make it 10,000 contacts. We need to do 10,000 contacts. Mm-hmm. And so Finale, DeVoe, Tarda, all these guys are like, McMahon, all these folks are like, when they talk to me, they only talk in terms of 10,000 contacts, 10,000, right? And so knowing that you're out there, that Finale's out there, knowing that we are allies, and you're a friend in my head, Jess, so.
No, we're friends. Got it.
Right. So, but knowing that we are allies makes a 10,000 contact day a piece of cake, and failing at it even better. Right. So I'm gonna shut up in 2 seconds and let you talk. Right. But Finale says the imperfection is the connection.
100%.
Right. And so that's where we are. 10,000 contacts. You're more than welcome. But shoot, what do you think about that? Like.
And I talk about this all the time, right? When you say the word like 10,000 contacts, I think about 10,000 audience, right? Because my brain immediately goes to audience instead of contacts, right? Let's build an audience. And so I talk about this all the time. Like my husband and I have talked about this. Our house could burn down. Our accounts could get hacked. We could lose everything that we have financially. We will always be okay because we have an audience, right? And so our audience is our insurance. And our audience is the key to our growth in the future. So growing that audience, but not just growing it for the sake of numbers, growing it and deepening it, right? Creating community and creating that buy-in and that belief in what we're doing and the brand that we're building. That is what is by far the most important thing that we're doing, right?
Awesome.
And so, we talk about different ways of building authority online. Right. You hear, authority value content. We build out signature processes and solutions for clients so that agents can position themselves as solutions to problems, things like that. But the thing that most realtors are forgetting is the power of PR. The power of getting yourself in front of new people, new audiences, growing that audience, connecting with not only your audience, but the audiences that other people have built to then share both of your audiences, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the time when we're thinking about things like lists and it like the old school idea of the database, it's very, people are very scarcity driven and protective of it, right? But not everyone who's in my audience is necessarily the perfect fit for me.
Absolutely. You talk about database and people are afraid to let anybody see it or touch it. But like I've got a connection with your people. You feel that way. That doesn't make sense, right? But anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming on and just I'm going to ask you in a second, but understand that, Jess, I want to thank you for coming on, and with that, thank you. I know why you came on. It wasn't talking to me with Sekou. It had all to do with the hat.
It was all the hat. I gave myself a hat.
It's all the hat.
It's all to do with the hat. I mean, you can see them both being modeled here, so you can have your choice between the black one and the gray one.
Yeah.
So that's your choice. That's cool, but it's all about the hat. All of my great people that are on get one. But all kidding aside, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Sekou, you have any last words or last questions you'd like to throw at Jess?
You know me, Dave. I always ask the same question. Hey, Jess, how can I help you grow? What can I do to help you grow?
That's a great question. And it's funny, like everyone should always end conversations with like, how can I add value to you? Come to one of my events one day.
I'm there.
Come to
I'm there.
one day and give me a hug in real life, and let's just spend some time.
We can do that.
You have no idea what you just did. I'll be there.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, I'll like, comment, and subscribe.
Right. Exactly. So just tell people how to get in touch with you, how they can get your information. What's the best way for them to communicate with you?
So I always because the baseline of everything that I do is community. I would say join one of my communities. So my on Facebook, it would be the Listings Lab Method for Real Estate Agents, which is my Facebook group, or Instagram, which is just Jess Lenovel on Instagram.
Awesome. Excellent. And I want to thank you for coming on. This is what it looks like. I can't even find the camera. There it is. Right. Again, thanks so much for coming on. Stay on for a second after we go up. Everybody, I want to thank you for coming on. This is the week before Christmas is episode 78. Merry Christmas, everybody. We'll see you next week, next Friday. We have a great agent, great example of an agent coming on. Sean Shalish joining us on the 27th. I'm so grateful for everybody on here. There's some gratitude right there. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week for episode 79. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.
There you go.